Welcome to the Hey Docs podcast with your host, Jill Allen. Today, we are delving into the world of orthodontics and OSHA compliance with Andrea Cook. From learning how to stay compliant, the impact of COVID-19 on regulations, and the common challenges practices face with infection control and training, we're covering it all. There's a lot to learn, so let's get started. Hey Docs, let's talk about Smile Suite, because it's not just another scheduling system. It's a game changer in the world of new patient management. And as a proud Smile Suite partner, I've witnessed the incredible impact it has on practices of all sizes. Smile Suite means your new patient calls and web leads are expertly handled 7 days a week, even during nights and weekends. And they offer top-notch customizable presentation software and seamless post-consultation follow-up. It's like having a secret weapon for your practice's success. Curious? Dive into the revolution at GetSmileSuite.com. And don't forget to mention Hey Docs to unlock some extra goodies. Elevate your practice with Smile Suite, because every smile deserves a suite of excellence. Welcome back, everyone. Andrea, I am so excited to have you on the show today. I always love getting to have my friends on. And so thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm glad I finally worked my name up through the list to get on your show. Excited.
Love that. It was only a matter of time. It was only a matter of time. So in the event that somebody doesn't happen to know who you are, which would be hard pressed, I think, to find somebody out there who doesn't, but would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, about your history in the industry, and what impact you're having on orthodontic practices out there?
If I tell you how long I've been in the industry, that will give you a clue to my age. But I started in '87, and I and you work in the best profession in the world. Orthodontics is just great people doing good things. I started as a chairside assistant, got a little restless, needed a little bit more. So I started going up to the University of Washington and working with what I call the kids. They weren't as kids then, but they are now. And that led me into, I want to teach, I want to do more, I want to work with offices. So then I started consulting and going to offices and helping them. I started just on the clinical side as far as schedules, efficiencies, things like that. And I soon realized what an impact instrument processing, organization, how much that impacted my clinical teams. So then I got into designing sterilization. And then when I started working with sterilization, a lot of people naturally assumed that, oh, I'm covered on OSHA too. And I said, haven't even touched that puppy yet. So then I got certified as far as an OSHA trainer, and I think that's as far as I want to go. I don't want to tackle anything more. But there's also intertwined in making us efficient in the clinic and safe. That's where I landed, and I just love my spot in the orthodontic industry. Nobody else wants to be here.
No,
Everybody
your
wants to be on the
niche.
marketing.
Yeah. Your niche is definitely a good spot to be in. And honestly, it's something that we all need. I always say there are certain parts of our industry that just aren't super sexy. And OSHA compliance and HIPAA compliance and some of the other things out there are, when we look at why we got into the industry, usually most docs are not like, I want to be the best OSHA compliant doctor out there. They need it.
Nope.
They need to be, but that isn't the reason they got into it. And one of the things and why I wanted you on this show is because I feel like, especially because I work with a lot of younger doctors, we really have to highlight some of these areas that I just don't think we put a lot of focus on when we think about running a business. We think about the big things. I need to produce, I need to collect, I need to learn how to manage my team.
Market.
Yeah, market, all of these things. But I think sometimes we forget about some of these auxiliary things that have to go on and in our offices and within our business structure in order to just make us better within our offices. So I'm wondering if we can just start off and talk about OSHA. And I have a lot of young docs that are listening right now. And believe it or not, they probably just perked up in their chair like, I've heard that. I need to know more about it because I didn't learn about it in school a whole lot. But
Nope.
I'm wondering if you can talk about what does OSHA compliance really mean? And what do we need to be paying attention to in our practices? And maybe as far as from getting started to staying in compliance. So, can we just dive into that and talk about that a little bit?
Diving into OSHA is so much fun. So let's go. I started working, and I still go up and talk to the kids at University of Washington and prepare them for what do I need to know once I get out of here to make it a safe work environment for me and for my team. And I had one of them after I got done. I spent a half day up there talking with him, and she said, I don't want to get out. I just want to stay in my little bubble. So I don't want to scare people. But being educated about what you need to do to make a safe work environment for you, which is what OSHA does. I want to back up just a little bit and clarify the difference between OSHA, which is making a safe work environment for your employees. Hazardous communication, we have an evacuation route, we have an exposure control plan, we have a chemical list and SDS sheets to protect our team members. Then we have the CDC and the State Dental Board over here, which is saying, here's what you need to do to process instruments. So two regulatory bodies, some of them dovetail as far as what's required, but there are two areas that we need to be aware of. When we talk strictly about OSHA, that's just saying, hey, what is it going to be to make your office safe for workers? Now, this is when we have a problem with OSHA, we have a complaint. Typically, it comes from we have a disgruntled employee. But I have heard a couple scenarios where an office is interviewing and hiring. Somebody came into the office to apply for a job and said, hey, this is not safe. They can get reported as well. So it's not just about it's about who's seeing you in the office too. Had one doctor, I got a call immediately. So he was in a new patient exam. Talking to him, dad was there. And so the doctor says, what do you do for a living? And he said, I'm an OSHA inspector. And the doctor went white. And he said, all I could think about was, do we have an OSHA manual? Where's the OSHA manual? I don't know. And all of these things are racing through his head. And he got out of the office exam and said, I know I'm not compliant and I need to fix that. I don't want to scare people. Most offices will or doctors will retire and not have an inspection, but I want you to live as though they're coming in tomorrow. Just for you can sleep at night as the doctor, practice owner, and your team can sleep at night knowing that they are safe. So you're right. It's not sexy, it's not fun, but it's a necessary part of what we do. And most, through lack of anything, really don't know what to do to comply, what I need to do, the documentation that I need to have to back that up. When I started in ortho, we went to lunch and said OSHA 3 times and counted that as our OSHA training. It's not like that anymore. They need documentation. They want protocols set up. That's what they're looking for right now. So it's time to be aware.
Yeah. And I think, what a better time than beginning of the year. I always encourage my offices just in general, like plan out your year, plan out what you're going to be doing over this next year. And instead of, thinking that, oh my gosh, tackling OSHA is this big thing, maybe plan out some of the processes that are happening at your different meetings that are happening throughout the year. So I'm curious, can you, from a big level overview, can you just talk to us, especially for some of the younger docs that may be on, about what does it mean to be OSHA compliant and what do they need to be thinking about? Is it a yearly something? Is it once a month? Is it a course they need to physically go to? What does that kind of look like when they're looking forward and saying, okay, this is my year. I'm really gonna get on top of it.
It's not a fun project to get on top of. Once your project is done, once you have your manuals will include an exposure control plan, which is if there's an emergency in the building, how are we going to get out? Your hazard communication plan. That's we're dealing with chemicals. How are we going to deal with them? What PPE? All of those things. Your exposure control plan. If I have a poke or some splash in the office, what are we going to do? We have those documents. Once they are completed, unless something changes, it really manages itself. Those documents are what's going to provide training for our teams upon hire or when they have a change in position. So my lab tech now wants to come out and be in the clinic. So we need to have training there. And if nothing changes, all your team members are still in the same spot, your documents haven't changed, you still need a documented annual training. And that there's no way to get around it. All of those things have to be documented. They have to be signed by who did the training, what was trained on, who was there, what's your job position. And 20 gave us a good launch into removal of orthodontics used to deny we don't need to do OSHA, we don't do blood, we don't need to do any of that stuff, and that's totally untrue. OSHA made 20 made everybody aware of it. Now we just make sure I'm seeing offices slide back and get back into that comfort level of we didn't do OSHA training last year. We're fine. That's not the case. If anybody comes in, they're going to want that documentation. And it's in your best interest to be able to have an OSHA coordinator, have somebody in charge of it, whether it's the doctor, whether it's a team member, can be anybody in the office, but somebody who is in charge of it and managing it. And then they're the umbrella. They have people below them. Oftentimes, I will put the ordering person in charge of the SDS sheets because that person is seeing product come and go. Oh, we switched ultrasonic solution. So those are the pieces that have to be there. What they've really focused on now, both CDC and OSHA, are documentation. I want to see the logs of what was trained on. Gone are the days of just saying we did it. Any of the maintenance has to be documented. Those are the big things right now, is making sure that we have protocols developed. You have to have a written plan. You can't just say we know what the evacuation route is or the instrument processing protocol. It's written documents and then the training and the logs to back that up that are going to keep you in compliance.
Yeah.
So you're right, it's not fun, but boy, I encourage you to do it for many reasons other than doctors and team members. I want you to sleep at night knowing that you're working in a safe environment and you're not going to be exposed to whatever. But
Yeah. And I know one of the things that I really encourage my startup docs to do is I say, of course, we have to get this in place. And my rule of thumb is by at least 6 months into your practice, you have to have all of this done. And I don't think that most of my docs can do it before doors open or within their first month. They're still figuring out how to answer the phones and get patients in. But I feel like a 6 month window is just a really good window to say, okay, we're in, we're working. Now we need to work on, again, some of this back end stuff that doesn't feel like, oh, being OSHA compliant isn't going to make more patients walk through the door. No, it won't, but it's a component of your business that you have to focus on in order to be compliant and keep your doors open should somebody walk through the doors that you were hoping they wouldn't, and just know that you're going to be safe, and not safe for you, safe for your employees, but also just your business is safe and in compliance.
again, protected if there is an exposure or something happens in the office. That's your protection. That's your CYA that's going to keep you in business if you do have an exposure or an incident in the office. I think 6 months is a good window. Obviously, I would like to have it set up when you start
Sure.
because
Yeah.
according to OSHA, you have to have training within 10 days of hire if I'm at risk. Is that realistic for a new doc? No.
Yeah.
For a doctor or a practice that's already established, then yes, that 6 months would get your OSHA coordinator. OSHA coordinator has to be trained because most of the time, OSHA coordinators, they say, can you be the OSHA coordinator? And they're like, sure. They have no idea what that entails. So please, if you're asking somebody to be that, give them the training and the tools that they need so that they know what they're doing and they feel confident in the role, and not just say, here, take this on, because OSHA doesn't do a very good job of saying, here's what you need. They're like, go figure it out. That's how they
Yeah.
do it.
And speaking of that, as a resource, how do you suggest docs get that training for their team members or for themselves, especially if they're a younger doc that's, hey, everything's on my shoulders right now, or that doc that's maybe just purchased a practice and is coming in? How do you suggest that they go about getting that training or training their team members?
The best way to do it, and whether you have somebody like myself come in or somebody come in or go to something, it's so much easier if you go get that one-stop shop and say, we're going to get this, we're going to get our OSHA coordinator trained, because tasking them with that and saying, go figure that out, you're going to be 2 years in and they still don't know what they're doing. So find a place to send an OSHA coordinator to tell them what they need, help them, give them the guidance that said, these are the documents that you need. This is how you can do it. Whether it's myself, there's a lot of places to get the information, but give them that when you task them. Otherwise, those poor things are going to just struggle. It's it's not fun, but there's not a place to go get answers. If you have a question and you call OSHA or reach out to OSHA, it's days before you get a response, and it's just not. So I would encourage, somehow there's inexpensive ways to do it. It doesn't have to be a huge investment, but for your protection and for your team member, give them that tool that they need to make it happen. And then once they have that, they blossom and they say, I can do this, rather than, I don't know how to eat this elephant, and so I'm just going to not start. And that's where they struggle.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I'm curious, as we've made it through COVID, and thank goodness we made it through. We're on the other side. But obviously, all of us, as we were all going through it, there was OSHA this and PPP, PPE this, and all of the different things that were out there. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on how going through something like COVID, this national component that hit all of our offices, how you see that has maybe affected our clinics. What are some holdovers that are still in effect that we may not even really realize, and what that did to changing any regulations that you saw with us?
I'm going to start with saying, when you're working with OSHA, and this happened a lot in 20 and into 21, there were a lot of groups out there, whether they were assistant groups or whatever, and there was just a lot of talk going on, and I won't say nothing. A lot of it was based on, my office does it this way and my office does it that way. Go to the source, which is OSHA, or somebody that you can rely on. I'm glad to answer questions because there isn't a outlet for it. Reach out to me. I'm happy to answer questions, but go to a reliable source before you decide what needs to be done, how to do it, what do the regulations say. In 20, a lot of it changed, and it made me happy. It made me feel safer for my teams that are out there, that there was an awareness of what we need to be doing to protect ourselves. There was talk of changing the OSHA regulations. They have not done that. They are in review. In 1996, they came out with the universal precautions. That still stands. We're still following that. They have reviewed them, and they pushed hard on, we need admin documentation, things like that. They haven't changed anything. They just added to it. So right now, we're still following those regulations from 1996, but we're adding logs, protocols, documents, so that things will remain consistent. I'm hoping that will stay for the sole protection of my teams, and I do doctors and teams. So I'm seeing it relax a little bit, and there's no perfect office. There's nobody that's 100% compliant. It just can't be. But stick as close to it as you can, especially when I'm having a lot of movement in my offices. Team member left, new team member in. She came from a different office. She came from Starbucks. I'm seeing a lot of that, and things are getting more diluted, and we don't have time. So we're skipping steps again. And it just scares me that somebody's at risk, whether it's the doctor or the practice or a team member. So I'm hoping that kind of goes back to the awareness that, yes, we need to do this and have it in place. But right now, no changes. Documentation, manuals, all of that is still in place, just more enforced right now.
Yeah. And if you were to give some advice on, you've been talking about some of these challenges. We have new team members coming in. We've got maybe change of institutional knowledge within the practice. And I think especially when we're hiring from outside of our industry, and somebody just really doesn't get some of the things that we do, that there can be, even though you would think, oh yeah, of course everyone knows that there's could be contamination in saliva. Just a lot of times people just
Yeah.
don't think about it, right? And so I'm wondering if you can maybe tell us about or give us some solutions to those practices that maybe just sign up some of those basic things of these are some things to be aware of when you've got new team members and you guys are moving in to infection control and moving in through training. Do you mind just speaking to that a little bit?
Yeah, and that's a big one. And I know none of my teams have time for training. They don't even have time to train on putting an arch wire in or correct bonding protocols, let alone something like OSHA, which doesn't, it can affect the office, but it doesn't help move my team member into a productive member and be able to run a chair. So those things, I get it. Those are priorities. But we do have to stop and take that piece, whether it's, and most people don't want to do this, but I would have a team member come in a day before and go through, especially if they come, I don't want to say that. I treat all employees as if all new hires, as if they know nothing, because I don't know where they came from. I don't know their protocols in the old office or previous office. So I treat everybody as you have no knowledge of this and we're going to go through it. So even if they have a little bit under their belt when they come in that first day, because when they come in the first day and we're seeing patients, it's morning huddle, let's go.
Yep.
And it gets lost. Or at least ask them if you can have your OSHA coordinator and them, maybe for the first week, can you bring your lunch and we can stay through lunch to go through some of these things, because I know it's not going to happen when patients are in the office. So if they can get some of that knocked out before, that'll put you that much further ahead. And then you can focus on arch wires and bondings and things like that are moving them in that direction. But having your written protocols, I'm happy to help. I have templates. If people don't have the templates for some of these documents, I'm happy to send those to you to help you get launched in that direction, to get you started on what you need to be thinking about, and then training documents and things like that. But that's the first step, is to have those pieces and then slowly knock them out as your new hire continues to work on brackets, bondings, but we also have that safety component backing us up.
I think that that's so good. And something that comes to mind is, for me, I'm always pushing my docs, think outside of the box here a little bit and think about, like, how could, especially if we've got a lot, and we do right now, a lot of turnover in our practices, what's a way that we could do this? You could record your trainings. There's so many different tools out there. We can make little mini courses for our team members to go through within our office, so that OSHA coordinator, her or his time is super valuable too. Instead of having to say something 5 times to the 5 new team members that have just hired on, how about thinking about recording them? Just grab that iPhone, grab that whatever, record them, let that employee watch it, and then do a quick meeting about it or whatnot. And I just feel, docs, if you guys can just think outside of the box, coordinators, if you can think outside of the box to being efficient with your time. We all know running and growing an orthodontic practice isn't easy, and technology is supposed to help you, but oftentimes your practice management software doesn't. Some of them are even clunky and need lots of third-party add-ons. That's why I recommend Greyfinch to my startup and existing clients, because Greyfinch is different. Greyfinch is an all-in-one web-based platform that saves you time and boosts your client base, productivity, and bottom line, with no downloads or third-party software needed. It even has tools you can't find anywhere else, like televisits, two-way email and text messaging, a patient self-service hub, and much more. Want to see how it can grow your practice? Visit greyfinch.com/Jill Allen and see why countless leading practices have made the switch. By now, we all know I talk to a lot of doctors and give advice to practices in every stage of their life cycle. And one question my docs ask all the time is, who do you recommend for marketing to attract more new patients from the internet? My answer? Easy. I have been recommending Mary Kay Miller and her team at Kaleidoscope for the better part of a decade. Why? They are thorough, professional, and transparent. Kaleidoscope Digital Marketing is who you want to talk to because they understand how to market in the orthodontic world, and they offer tools that are affordable and easy to use. I'm telling you, if you're looking to step up your digital presence, Kaleidoscope should be your first call. Go to contactkl.com to request your free digital marketing consultation. That's contactkl.com. I think that can really make a difference. And I just have a little story I want to tell you about, Andrea, that I saw this when I was in an office once, and I was actually in training a treatment coordinator. And so I think a lot of times we think about OSHA and we think, oh, that really only applies to my clinical team, right? It doesn't apply to my front office team, and it definitely doesn't apply to my TC. She's doing sales. But the treatment coordinator that I was in observing and training, brand new to our industry. And one of the things that she was doing, and it didn't even dawn on her, and you will cringe and get a kick out of this all in the same thought here, but I'm watching her do the new patient process where she takes the patient back and she's taking the pictures and using the mouth mirror and all of that. And what I started noticing was, in order for her to warm up the mirror, the doctor's office that we were in had a patient brushing sink really close to the records room. And so what she would do is she would run out of the room, flip the hot water on in the patient brushing sink, go throw the mouth mirror into the patient brushing sink to warm up the mouth mirror.
There came the cringe.
To grab the mouth mirror, dry it off, and go use it on the patient. And I say this, docs, and I'm sure everybody is sweating and squirming at this point right now in my story, but there was absolutely nothing malicious about this in her mind. She wasn't doing this on purpose. And what it really came down to was somebody in our industry in a position that we did not, that the doctor had not thought to be like, why would she not know that? Like, why was there not a connect that, oh, that's a gross, dirty brushing sink that lots of people have been spitting in when we're warming up our mouth mirror
And not wiping.
Yeah. And this isn't to point out that anything except for to say, I think we can sometimes forget that it isn't just our clinical team that needs this information. It is our front office team. It is our letters, and I'll take my clinical team out for lunch and we'll bust through this and be done. It really can have a big impact on multiple things.
And I will say, most of my teams, when I go in and I'm observing an office and things are happening, and I'm like you, seeing that in the sink and thinking, I have not found a truly intentional breach to sabotage a doctor. It comes from lack of education, lack of training, and I didn't know. I came from Starbucks. I don't know these things. And I love your recording. Go through, do an OSHA training with somebody, or one component of it. Do one piece of it, record it, because the two things. My OSHA coordinator doesn't have time because she's probably running 2 chairs right now. And I want to make sure my teams get consistent information. When I do a training, did I tell them that or did I not? I can't remember if I told you or what I told you. And then they start talking, and that's when we go down bunny trails of doing things differently. But if we have the same information, record it one time. It doesn't have to be beautiful and refined. It's just get the information to them in bite-sized pieces that they can manage. Then they can revisit it. If you see something and they need a reminder, you can go back through that recording and say, do it again. You can use it for your monthly meeting. Have a refresher on it. But having the documents and then having those recordings is going to save an office a lot of time. And like we've said, nobody has time right now for anything.
That's right. So let's talk a little bit about non-compliance, because I think for everyone, it's really easy to think, Yeah, I've heard about that, but it's not going to happen to me. I think most of us like to roll the dice and feel
Yeah,
like we're going to Vegas and we're probably not going to win.
but we're still going, aren't we?
But we're still going. And I think that the reality of it is, I think you and I both, we can think of a handful of practices that has had OSHA come in, that has
Hmm.
had inspections and whatnot. So I'm wondering if you can give us some insight into that, and what do we need to be aware of if something, if you know, managing, if we're not managing that, our compliance, what do we need to be aware of with the risks?
A couple of things. An OSHA inspection is hopefully never going to happen to you, but I always live like we're going to have one. But also, like I was talking about the doctor that had the new patient dad come in the office, you don't know who's in your office. And they may
Mm-hmm.
not be in OSHA mode, but if they start to see things, they can say, hey, things aren't right. If you're trying, you have most of your documents in place, we're lacking a little bit here. If you get an OSHA inspection, they're going to come in, they're going to greet at the front desk. Your front desk is asking for ID. First thing you want to do is say, let me get my OSHA coordinator. And that OSHA coordinator is going to stay with that OSHA inspector through the whole inspection. They're going to walk through the office. They're going to watch what you're doing. They're going to look at your documents. They're going to leave you with a laundry list of things that need to be changed. Unless you are in blatant disregard, at that point, you're not going to get shut down. You're not going to get a fine. The one that they did shut down a few years ago was in Washington. Was the doctor was living in the office with his
Oh.
dog and his expired meds, and he had team members who were not licensed to administer these expired meds. Yeah, he got shut down, rightly. But if they come in and if you say, here's my OSHA coordinator, we're working on our documents, we're trying, they're going to leave you with that list and then come back in whatever they say, 30, 60, 90 days. My recommendation to you at that point is to have those changes implemented. If they come
Mm-hmm.
back and you don't, that's when they're going to say, but I don't want to give you a free pass to say you don't have to comply. But if you're trying, they're going to give you a chance. They're not going to, like I said, blatant disregard. Yeah, they're going to shut you down.
Yeah.
But if you're trying, you'll be okay and you'll live through it. But it is alarming. I've had a few doctors go through it. And like I said, with the documents we have in place, they still left them with a laundry list, but it was a shorter laundry list. It was manageable. They did it and it was done. But boy, is it scary. And
Yeah.
if you don't have anything in place, that's when they're going to come in and say,
Yeah. Yeah. Are
trouble's
there,
happening.
from what you've seen going into practices and working with so many practices, is there a couple main areas that you see offices falling short of pretty consistently? Some common
Mhm.
overlooked areas?
One of the big ones, and it's the highest fine ratio, is the hazard communication plan. We have hazardous chemicals, we have blood, we have saliva, we have things that we have to protect ourselves. If you don't have a hazard communication plan and PPE training and how to protect our team with the chemicals, the saliva, the blood that we deal with, that's the number one
Mm.
fine from an OSHA is your hazard communication plan. If you're going to look at where am I going to start on this elephant, that would probably be my first place to start is getting your hazardous communication plan in place that says, we have all this stuff. What are we going to do with it? And I want to touch base on you were talking about employees. And yes, we used to think the clinical team, OSHA, and that's not true. We have TCs that are handling dirty instruments. We have
Mm-hmm.
TCs and front desk that are using germicidal agents to disinfect countertops. Okay, now you've just put me at risk. The
Mm.
only ones who are truly not at risk are like a call center, maybe a financial coordinator that doesn't either works remote or in an office. Everybody else, you're exposed.
Yes.
So there's no out on this one, guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
If you're looking for an out, that's not it.
Yeah. No, I cannot agree more. And I think, again, so many times we have, oh, can you just jump back and do our sterilization real quick? I think that's where most pokes happen a lot of times is somebody who is not familiar with, yes, they understand I moved this instrument to this, to that, to whatever, but they aren't paying attention to the fact that there are sharp things or there are these old dirty
Yeah.
wires can actually pop through this glove and create a potential stick hazard or whatnot. Yeah.
And back to, in their defense, they probably haven't been trained. It's just, hey, hop back and process sterilization. One of the other biggest risk areas in an office is during the summer or during Christmas break when we hire somebody's child or a high school kid to come in and they're just going to do sterilization. They don't need training. That's your highest risk employee. I'm handling all of these instruments, all of these chemicals, and I haven't had any training. You're really putting yourself out there with that one. So
Yes.
anybody you do hire, especially that person that is so exposed, be kind to them and help them and train them and say, this is how to protect yourself because this is dirty place. Not the whole office, just the sterilization
Yeah.
area.
No, and I think that is, you're so exactly right. And I've never really put much thought behind that, but 100%. And I think it is so
Yeah.
easy for us to just, like you said, it's going to be busy. Let's just hire that high school student in. And I honestly can't think of, now that you've said that, I can't think of a single practice that I can think of in all the years that I've worked that has put their summer hire or their Christmas hire through an OSHA course before they actually, just to at least let them understand the exposure risk there. Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
You just pointed out a great.
I was working with an office and they wanted me to come in and train a sterilization tech. And I said, sure. I said, I want them to have 2 weeks under their belt before I come in so they know where to have lunch and they know where to hang their coat and things like that. So I went in and first thing I do is just observe what's happening. And I see this person take a box of sterilization pouches out of the box, package of them, put them in the sterilizer and shut the door and turn it on and run it. Walk me through your process here. And he said, they told me when I was hired that I need to make sure those little dots change colors.
Oh,
And it takes so long to do them individually. So I just do them all at once.
oh
And then
my
I can just put
gosh.
the instruments in. Okay, not his failure.
No.
That was office failure. And in his defense, he said, this is so much faster.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, he is being efficient at his job. May not be doing it the right way, but kudos to thinking outside the box there.
absolutely. After I thought, whoa, he'd only been there 2 weeks, so we got it remedied before it got too bad. But again,
Yep.
efficiency, success,
Yep.
process failure.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
but yeah, those people are truly your highest risk employee.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So this has been great talking about all these things. And again, I know this isn't the most exciting thing that we talk about in an office. And I so appreciate that you have been in this space and just really out there making sure that practices stay safe. So I'm just, as we finish up here, do you have any thoughts or last minute thoughts on what things that offices should be doing in regard to OSHA, as anything that we haven't covered as they're heading into this next year?
Don't let the elephant OSHA scare you. It's something that you have to do. Like you said, take it in a 6 month, take pieces of it. Don't say, okay, today we're going to tackle this elephant and we're going to win, because you're going to probably fail. It's too big of a project for that. Train your person who's in charge, whether it's you or whether the doctor or one of the team members, but give them that tool that can help make it happen. And then things will start to roll. But if you just say, here's OSHA, we're going to be having the same conversation in 2 years or next week, next month that we have, and take it in small pieces. If you haven't been compliant for a couple of years, I don't want to give you an out, but get pieces in place slowly, steadily, build your protocols, record your videos, get it going. Once you start, it takes on a life of its own. And yeah, and I've tried other roles in the office. They're not me. I tried to do TC. Yeah, it's not me. Clinic is where I love.
Yep.
And unfortunately, OSHA and CDC are part of that, but I do. And laugh a little bit, have a little bit of fun with it. Don't be too serious. If you get bogged down when you're doing it, walk away, take a break, go get a cup of coffee or something. Don't let it be that negative project.
Yeah.
So
Great.
Little pieces at a time.
Yeah. Such good advice. And I say
chocolate helps too.
Yeah, chocolate does help. Chocolate and caffeine. I'm all about that. And I think docs, if you're looking to do this, set a date, set a plan, little bite size, say, we're going to be compliant by June. All right, what do we need to do each month to get us to that point? And then just keep up with it. It goes to that. A lot of people have heard me say this, but every year you should have a state of the office address. And part of what you are planning out for your next year, besides your meetings and all of this, is where does our training fit in? Because training has to fit in. And it's not just how do we train on the new aligner system or the new bracket system. It's even things like this. I know OSHA is just one of those. It's going to be with us from the beginning our doors open until our doors close when we're ready to hang up our coats.
Hopefully they don't close because you've had an OSHA inspection and didn't do so good.
Yeah.
But I like your point of, okay, give us a 6-month window of when we're supposed to have this done, but then give me milestones along the way. Because if I don't have my milestones, 5 months and 30 days is going to come and I'm not going to be any closer. But I have to have, okay, at 30 days, I want to have this document done. 60 days, I want to have that done. 90 days, I'm going to have my SDS manual built. And again, when we have an OSHA coordinator, they are the umbrella. Have people under your team, on your team, help you. Like I said, the ordering person, great for SDS sheets. Have them help you. You don't have to do it all, but you have to make sure everything is done. But then you can tackle it more quickly as well from other people involved.
Yeah. This has been great. Again, just so appreciate you living in this space for us. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you and they're like, all right, Jill, all right, Andrea, I am going to commit to getting my team and my office up to speed. How do they get a hold of you? How do they learn more about your trainings?
First thing, my website, Andrea Cook Consulting, you can visit me there. On there, you can have all the ways to contact me, my phone number, my email. That's probably the easiest way. What I love to be for this industry that has taken such good care of me through these years is a support system. If you're thinking, hey, I might need something, but I'm not really sure I'm ready to commit, let me answer questions for you. I'm happy to help you. I'm not one to say, you either hire me or I'm not. I'm just a support person because I have had so much support from my doctors, from you, Jill, from everybody in the industry. Shoot me an email, text, whatever works for you, but let me answer your questions. I will give you educated information on what the true guidance is. Please don't go on Facebook and you're fine to talk to them, but that's not the where to get the answers that are really going to help you. No, some of the answers I saw in some of the conversations were just like, oh my gosh. So just let me be a resource for you until you get to the point where, you've either got it taken care of, you guided me through it, or I need more help. Whatever way.
And what I know about you, Andrea, is I know that you come at this with no judgment either. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things with doctors is we can be pretty vulnerable. And I'm going to show a side that I don't have all buttoned up. And I see this on my consulting side. I know you see this in yours too. And one of the things I know about you is if a doc calls and they're going to expose their dirty, messy closet, per se, of OSHA secrets, you're just going to meet them where they're at. And I think that's the beauty of it. I know that you're going to meet them where they're at. You're going to give them good, solid advice and come alongside them. And I think that's some of the things that I just really appreciate about you is you're not beating them over the head with the OSHA club. You're going to help them. You're going to work through it. And you can't change the past. You can only change the future.
And that's what doctors will say especially for my world, doctors are more exposed when I'm involved. When you go into an office and you're working with the TC, the doctor and the clinic are not as exposed. So doctors have a hesitation sometimes with a clinical person that they're going to see more of that side of the practice. And everything I do is just, from now on, we're going to be doing it this way.
Yeah.
I can't, like you said, can't change the past. Don't beat yourself up. The reason you did it is you didn't know. So let's change that and move on.
Yep.
Look at
Yep.
it. Yeah.
I
So no,
love it.
no judgment.
Yeah.
No judgment. I'm not showing you my
Judgment-free
dirty closet,
zone.
though.
Yeah.
I've got one over there.
Oh, this has been such a treat having you on. And I just thank you for giving us some really good information about OSHA. And I'd love to have you on again. And I'm sure we'll have lots more to talk about at a future date.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
As we finish up, one of the things I like to do is just finish us up with a quick speed round. Are you ready for the speed round challenge?
This is like Jeopardy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee black.
Ooh. Favorite book?
Start with the why. I take that into my training. If they know why, compliance is better. So start with the why and then find your why.
Oh,
the two, same author. Yep. But anyway, both.
Yep. Love them both. All right. Favorite outdoor activity?
Anything. Fishing, hiking, snowshoeing, anything. Snowmobiling. I'm going this weekend. Anything. Outdoor.
Can I come join you?
Yeah.
If you could be remembered for one thing, what would that be?
Being kind.
That's a good one. And then
I think you can go a long ways.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Best piece of advice you've ever received?
Finish strong. Whatever you're doing, complete it, finish it, whatever that looks like to you, but finish strong. Don't leave something dangling for, I quit. Yeah. Just finish strong.
Yeah, that's great.
My dad taught me that one.
That's a good one to hold on to. Andrea, it's been, again, such a treat, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Thanks for letting me make the list.
Yeah.